So it's a different kind of day today. It's very sort of drizzly, and I love this kind of weather. I have a Scots background, so I think that this kind of weather harkens back to something in me, I don't know. But I was just thinking about today the amount of suffering that's going on in the world. For example, where I live, you see a lot of paddy melons. Paddy melons are, you know, sort of a smaller marsupial, like a small kangaroo. And about a few months ago, I was driving up the road. It was the middle of the day, and this paddy melon jumps out of some tall grass right as I'm literally driving up the road. Like literally the second that I was passing him, and I didn't see him because he was in tall grass on the side of the road, and he jumped in front of the car, and I slammed the brakes on, but and I was only doing about, I don't know, 30 kilometers an hour up the road, so I was very slow. And but sadly he jumped out, and even though I swerved, I hit him in the back leg, and I got out of the car quickly, and we tried to see if we could get him, but I saw him going off, and he was dragging his left leg behind him, and I thought it's either broken or badly damaged, and we kept going back there. We couldn't get him because he kind of scuttled away. They're very fast, particularly, you know, when they feel threatened. And we kept going back there. I went back there in the afternoon to see if I could find him, so we could. And I asked some wildlife rescue people if they could come and have a look, and they said you'll have to sort of spot him first, and then we'll come and get him. But I could never find him. So basically, you know, he was in that sort of terrible shape, and there was nothing I could do to really. I could never find him again. And I regularly think about him when I'm driving by that place, which I do fairly often, and wondering how he is, because I can't imagine his quality of life is very good at all, and he may have even died. But the thought of him going through that suffering is very difficult, and you know, because of me, basically. Even though there was nothing I could do to. It was in the middle of the day, really, and they're very rarely ever out in the middle of the day or in daytime. They're nocturnal, so you don't expect that sort of thing to happen. You don't expect them to be doing that, even though at nighttime it's really, really out there. Little paddy melons tend to wait. This is literally what happens. They wait until you're literally almost beside them, and then they jump out on the road, and you have to be going very slow. Even when you're going very slow, they leave it literally to the last minute, and you don't even know they're going to do it, that you can't even see them half the time. And so, you know, you regularly see lots of little paddy melons dead on the road. And possums, because possums get blinded, ringtail possums, they kind of get blinded by the light. So we drive very slowly, and I've been very careful, but it happens on a regular basis. Not to me, sorry, but it happens to other people. That's probably the second paddy melon that I've hit in 12 years, and I've been very careful, very, very careful. And it's very upsetting to me as a vegan, very upsetting. And that's why I rarely drive at night unless I absolutely have to. But as I say, they're just not, they have no road sense whatsoever. and they literally wait until you're on top of them almost before they jump out. And sometimes they'll jump out, then you honk the horn and they go back, and then just as you're about to start off again, they jump out in front of the car again. I mean, that's how it is. So anyway, that was a rather long story. I didn't mean to get into that whole rave, but it's just a small part of the greater suffering. All the animals that we eat, wear, and use, the 1 to 3 trillion land and aquatic animals every year for completely trivial reasons of mostly palate pleasure. And then all the animals that are locked in people's houses because they're refugees of domestication. And there's a lot of people tell themselves that cats and dogs are happy being locked in a house, or that cats are happy being locked in a house for their whole life. Maybe there's the occasional cat that's happy because they've learned to live with it. Other cats, they just have to learn to live with it, and people wonder why cats sleep most of the time. I'd sleep most of the time if I was locked in the same 4 walls, no matter how many toys there were, no matter how many cat trees. Eventually you'd get bored with that. And I mean, we have cats because we wanted to adopt cats in dire situations, so that's what we've done. But we also recognize that they're refugees of domestication, and the whole idea of domesticating animals for our entertainment or companionship or whatever is inherently, it's just wrong, just like it is to keep people as slaves and keep them as property for our use. But we love living with cats, but we recognize how messed up all this domestication is. And then to the wider issue of, I'm just going to move on to a different topic now. And these are based on discrimination, so it is related. Speciesism is related to racism and heterosexism, etc. But look at this lovely tree. I just love trees. Thank goodness we have a lot of them here. Our neoliberal government probably wouldn't, if they could get rid of them, they would. Because that's how it is now. Everything's a resource. Anyway, so when you see the disproportionate amount of black people in the United States who are victims of the COVID-19, I think it's like 30% of a population that is only about 16 or 17% of the United States, but 30% of those are the national death total. 33%, sorry. That's like, that indicates, even though they don't like to talk about it, that indicates that poverty is a driver of that, poverty and everything that goes with it. And that's not acknowledged either by the Surgeon General, who is black, who was asked that question the other day, and he kind of didn't really analyze it as you would expect, because Trump was right beside him. Nobody's going to critique the capitalist class while they're standing beside you when you've been appointed by one of them. But that's the case. The structural racism in the system and the mass incarceration as a result. But I'm just one person on the planet, and the terrible suffering, it just sometimes seems like one makes so little difference to the ever-growing suffering. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. the ever-growing suffering on the planet. There's that saying by Gandhi, everything you do will be insignificant, but it's important that you do it. I'll just have to take Gandhi's word for that one. I always like looking across here. See that house there? It's an old style house. Probably about 180 years old, something like that. It has the high ceilings. It's a sort of an old traditional type house. Anyway, I just wanted to just talk about, sometimes I feel so, what's the word, impotent, or just not being able to really do much to help the suffering in the world. I mean, you can only do so much if you're just one person, but it just feels really sad sometimes. And you can't really stop it. As Buddhist philosophy says, life is suffering. Certainly is. Anyway, that was just my little kind of just feeling a bit melancholy about the state of things today. All the wrong people have the power. I'm not even sure if there's a right person to have the power, really. I think everything turns into a Lord of the Rings situation. The more power you have, the more corrupt